I wanted to ask you about, you said that some fans thought you were mad.
Yeah, I'm wrong.
Yeah. Was there a lot of pushback from United fans, or like you said?
There was, because there was an element when the season started. There was an element of despair among United fans that suddenly Arsenal had usurped us as the kings of the best team in British football, and that we would never, and they were playing amazing football at the time under Arsene Wenger, and that we would never get our preeminent position back. And of course, as the season progressed, that argument gradually crumbled, and from December onwards, we didn't lose a game for the rest of the season. And we played some extraordinary matches in the FA Cup. Extraordinary game. We won 8-2 at Forest, or was it 8-1? With Ole Gunnar Solskjaer scoring 4 goals in the last 10 minutes. And 6-1, 6-2 at Leicester, 6-2 at Leicester, I think it was.
Yeah.
And then the Liverpool game in the FA Cup. I mean, Real Madrid are untypical because they've got the backing really of the Spanish state. And no club in Britain's got that.
No.
But
different states.
Yeah, but it can be tricky, and it has been. It isn't always a model that works successfully. But by golly, I wish we'd had something like that instead of the Glazers. And I think that what happened with the Sky bid is that it opened people's eyes to the potential of buying big football clubs. And at first, the people who started buying us up were the so-called Coolmore Mafia, John Magner and J.P. McManus, both famous for their owning racehorses. And they became great mates with Ferguson. And Ferguson, around the same time, started owning some racehorses himself, and he owned some of them with the Coolmore boys. And it looked like they were buying, Magner and McManus were buying up shares in United, and with the intention that they would make Ferguson give him some big role in the club. I mean, once he'd retired as manager, perhaps chairman of the club. And then there was a big bust-up over a very successful horse called Rock of Gibraltar that won a whole load. I know nothing about horse racing. Well, a lot of people say I know nothing about football as well. But they run goodness knows how many races in a row. And
record-breaking.
And of course, suddenly the stud rights to Rock of Gibraltar were huge. And Ferguson thought that because they were co-owners, he would be getting half the stud rights. And the Coolmore guy said, no. You just get half the prize money from winning the races. When it comes to the stud rights, that's all ours. So Ferguson sued them, and it got very nasty. And in the end, the Coolmore guys got fed up. They sold their shares to the Glazers, and it didn't take much more for the Glazer to win ownership of the club. And if Ferguson and the Coolmore guys hadn't had that row over Rock of Gibraltar, and if Ferguson hadn't pushed his luck really by suing them, because remember it was him that sued them, not the other way around, then the Glazers would not be there today. Now, goodness knows who would then be owning it instead. But it's difficult to conceive of many worse owners than the Glazers in the recent history of English football. Well, certainly at the leading level.
Has anyone ever got the Coolmore lads on record?
They never say anything about this sort of thing. No.
So there's been interesting conversations.
Yeah,
what their plans were.
Yeah, it's like the Glazers, they never talk either.
No.
I mean, they prefer to operate behind the scenes. But it was very interesting, because I was actually approached at one point because I wrote a book about Ferguson. And although I'm a United fan, my book is warts and all, because ultimately I'm a journalist first and a United fan second. And so the book's warts and all, and they and there's a lot of things in there that Ferguson didn't like. Well, I imagine he didn't like. And I was approached about helping the Coolmore guys, because they were assembling stuff about Ferguson. And it's part of their battle, unfavourable stuff, every aspect of his life you can think of, and they put huge efforts into it. And it looks like they employed Kroll, the famous city investigative company that is often used in takeovers and things to investigate other companies and other individuals. And indeed, we discovered, because we used to go as part of Sheffield United, later on Must, while there were still shares in the club, before it was taken over by the Glazers, we used to go to the annual general meeting and ask awkward questions and sit in different parts of the audience so as we didn't all look like one big block. and they would have just
Love
ignored
that.
us as a
Spread
block.
out,
Whereas if you're spread out in
Yeah.
place,
Yeah.
and suddenly we went to an AGM, and there are all these people getting up and asking these questions, all about Ferguson. We thought that's a we thought it's our job to ask awkward questions, not these. Who are these people? And then, but all the questions were directed, not at, Ferguson wasn't there, but they were about him. We thought, what? Who is it? And then they let one of the people that they sent along clearly left a piece of paper on a chair with all the questions. And so, and we'd secretly done a recording of the meeting. So I was able to go through the recording, and they'd given their real names, and I worked out who some of them were, and I linked up one of them with Kroll, and I did a piece about it all in the Mirror. But it was just showed the, how nasty things got at that stage between Coolmore and Ferguson, how fraught it all was. And looking back, if you'd given me a choice between Sky taking over and the Coolmore Sky taking over and the Glazers taking over, I would have chosen Sky. In fact, I wish we'd lost that campaign, simply because if Sky had taken over, I think they would not have taken money out of United to the extent that the Glazers have, and they would not have neglected United to the extent that the Glazers have. I mean, the real problem that you've had at United for the last, it's getting on for 20 years now, is that I hear it's impossible to get decisions out of the Glazers. Are we going to buy this player? Well, come on, we need a decision. And by the time they get back, the player's gone somewhere else. Yeah. And the neglect of the ground and the huge hundreds of millions that have been taken out of the club, which could have gone on improving the team, improving the ground.
1.6 billion out the door, and we still owe what we owed the day they took over, plus about 300 million transfers since. I wonder if he's going to get his hand in with Jim Ratcliffe and that.
I mean, I think we know that Ratcliffe has spoken to him. I think Ferguson, he's too old now really to get heavily involved in a day-to-day way. He's still around, and of course he's survived his brain hemorrhage a few years ago, and of course at the time it didn't look like he would. Well, it looked, even if he did survive, that he would be in a very bad way after that. He looks like, one gets the impression he's now fully back to normal, although obviously a lot older. So he is a force around the place, but he didn't manage to. He wasn't, when it came to the Sky thing, Ferguson could have stopped the Sky thing as well. If Ferguson had come out and said, right, well, I'm not carrying on managing the clubs if these people take over. Trouble is, 50% isn't enough, because somebody comes along with a bid, and there'll always be somebody, some fans who are willing to sell.
Yeah, unfortunately. It was great chatting to you. We're going to get you on the channel again and have an even bigger chat. Maybe go through some of your books as well. Yeah, maybe go through the trivia book and quiz you on it. See how much you remember. Go and check out Michael all over your socials. Loads of good stuff as well. Go and check out his United books too. You know where to find Mr. Stephen Howson. Go and check out. Paddock got a game tomorrow?
Big one tomorrow, yeah. We're playing Winsford second, so... big win. If you want to come down, free entry, 2 o'clock, Openshaw campus.
Openshaw campus, there you go then. That's been Stephen Howson. That's been our special guest, Michael Crick. I've been Jay Motti. This has been The Brew. Don't forget to hit like, share and subscribe. Thanks for